Hi everyone, we will all have had some great moment where all feature work perfectly on your local machine, but fails the second it hits the cluster like your production. Today I'm going to show you the remote development in the IBM Enterprise Builder with Quarkus. I'm going to also show you how to link your local IDE directly into the Quarkus running inside the container pod on Kubernetes cluster. You get the same instant library load and the library coding experience, but your code is actually executing in the real environment with the access to the real production grade services. Let's bridge the gap. Just a reminder, for this demo, I already provisioned the Quarkus demo sandbox at IBM Tech Zone. So once I provision, I got some this detailed page which will allow me get into VDI environment. So here's my VDI environment URL. Once I get into this URL, I can go into my VDI environment based on Linux operation system and where the all required software and tools are pre-installed, such as Java, Maven, and Podman, or GraalVM, and among others. I already downloaded my existing Quarkus project with a simple REST API, which is like a hello world kind of thing. I open the VS Code for my working directory, and when I go to PubXML, you see the latest IBM Builder Quarkus version 3.27.1. And then here's my Kubernetes cluster, which is a Red Hat OpenShift Developer Sandbox. You can actually sign in today for free for next 30 days. This is my empty project, which is a DOH-dev, and then there's nothing deployed at this moment. So back to my IDE, let me try to make sure I authenticate that Kubernetes cluster with the same project, DOH-dev, which is fine. And the first thing, I'm going to try to add a new Quarkus Maven extension, which is OpenShift. You can also add the Kubernetes or something else, but OpenShift is really good integrate with the OpenShift cluster. That allow me to containerize the application without any specific like an OpenShift YAML or Kubernetes YAML, and I don't need to even containerize the application like a Docker file or some of the stuff and Kubernetes YAML, etc. Only thing I need to do specify some keys and value in my application properties file. For example, here, the target deployment is OpenShift. I can do that Kubernetes. I can do that Knative for serverless application too. Of course, I'm going to deploy application through, and I'm going to export the route URL for the like a fully qualified domain name like a www.xyz.com. And then one more thing here for the today demo, remote development. So basically, all container widget is immutable, which means you can change that container because even if you can change that, well, once the container restarted, the change is still all gone. That's mean immutable. But in order to having live coding capability, we need to make your container application as a mutable jar, and then the password URL between your local Quarkus runtime and the remote container pod. So you can do set up password whatever you want. And the most important thing for your Kubernetes container deployment environment variable Quarkus dev mode runchy is true. So now I'm going to build my application using Quarkus CLI, and it's build the fast start, but also it just trigger OpenShift the processor functionality, which is just containerized application, something like a Docker file already generated based on my project and deploy to my OpenShift cluster. So go back to OpenShift cluster in topology view, you will see the new container just deploy with a nice Quarkus icon. And then I just copy the endpoint URL, go to logs, you will see the dev mode activated and live coding activated, which is exactly same when you run Quarkus dev mode on your local IDE, like a local machine. Now let's go back to IDE, just keep updating the property one last thing is URL target, which is I just copied from there. And then when I run Quarkus dev, one thing different command line here, Maven command line, not Quarkus CLI. Quarkus CLI doesn't support remote dev at this moment, so that's why you're going to use a Maven command line or Gradle in case you are developing Gradle project. And so one command line, the remote dash dev. And it's almost the same thing when you run Quarkus demo, but one different thing is at the last month, as you can see, you can try to this application connect to remote container based on that URL and password. Let me try to access endpoint, on the access point and like hello, you can see hello from Quarkus last. So I'm gonna add a new method. This is just still my local. And the new method, the new REST API, for example, hello name, new method name, hello, new endpoint name, and enter, hi Daniel, and bang, this is good. And when I invoke endpoint, the Quarkus automatically identify and detect some change in the file in the local machine. When I go back to the Quarkus demo terminal, you will see that on the bottom, there are a few files automatically detect and then packaging again, or jar and sending to remote container. And then that's why you will see that the same thing. And then if we even not only Java class, whatever I change by the local machine, I got the same experience like a live coding and demo with the remote Kubernetes cluster. So let's try to add another business logic here, externalize my configuration for like a more multiple environment management. Let's say configure name my name, and then I'm gonna add hi and my name, and I need to go back to application property and set up the my name is Daniel. Awesome. And then save a file, and then just invoke the endpoint URL hello slash name. And then go back to Quarkus demo, you will see that. So the in the bottom of line, the application property are also detected and recompile and sending to remote cluster. Just so you know, the bottom error, which is some kind of network issue between my virtual machine and remote OpenShift Dev Sandbox. And then this is really not happen because I'm using a very particular environment right now. But even if that like a warning kind of error, still the sending the change file application property and classes, and now you can see the return. Hi Daniel, awesome. So this is not running my local machine on like a sandbox environment. It's actually running on remote OpenShift cluster in somewhere Amazon in the cloud. So I'm not going to say you're going to always use this remote dev capability with your production because it sometimes ruin entire system. But in case you got some find some issue in production, and you can directly connect to production or staging environment for troubleshooting really quickly. That's it for the demo today. If you want to find more resources about IBM and our project data Quarkus, please visit this URL and find more information. Thanks for watching.